Welcome to the Economic Development Council meeting. It is Thursday, April 8th, 11 a.m. And we will jump right. Oh, actually, we do have quorum. If we could have a roll call, just to let the public know who is here for quorum. I'll just call out your name, and if you could say present, that would be great. I'll start at the bottom of my screen. Matt?
Present.
Bruce?
Present.
John?
Present.
Dottie?
Present.
Tim?
Present.
And Stephanie?
Present.
And I also obviously am present. So let's get right into the agenda. We have some meeting minutes that are a little backed up. Our meeting last month got cut short. And so I just want to make sure we get these things cleared off our plate. So does anybody have any comments or questions about the meeting minutes of January 14th, February 11th, or March 8th? None.
I noticed on the February meetings, the bottom of the first page, I think Northeastern Savings Bank, the sentence got cut off. I only printed the first page, but it says New England Savings Bank. I think it talks about the donation that they made.
Okay.
For those cards. Right now it says New England Savings Bank.
So were there any other corrections, John, that you noticed?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry, was that March or?
That is in February.
Okay.
So if anyone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes with those changes, feel free to do so. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes with the corrections. If I could have a second.
Second.
All right, that's Bruce for a second, and all those in favor. I'll start again with just calling out names. Matt?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Dottie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Dan?
I think I'm abstaining from this one, right? I missed this meeting.
Well, it's actually for the slate. It's for
For the slate, yeah, aye.
11th and March 8th, yeah.
And these are really just to accept the minutes. It's not, they're not approving them. So that's the way we do it on the select board also. We don't necessarily be there.
There was one, and I'm sorry for being late, but there was one note. There was I was listed as voting but absent. So just if you could take me out of the roll call for the vote from one of those.
Okay, we will do
unwind that in my head a little bit there. So which one?
I think it was the last month's.
All right, so if we're going to do that, then we can't vote it as a slate.
Yeah.
So let's.
Sorry.
That's okay. And just for the record, you can, despite not being there, you can still vote to accept the minutes.
Yeah, but I was just listed as voting to approve the minute, or on the vote to adjourn the meeting. I don't think it's a big deal. Kind of wish I kept my mouth shut.
Okay. I just want to make sure I get this right for legal purposes.
Yeah, but we don't want you listed as voting if you weren't there.
Yeah.
Dan.
Let me
Right,
bring it up.
right.
Mm-hmm. So that was, what did you say, March?
So on the February minutes, and in the vote to adjourn, I believe it says in the roll call, Smith, yes. So in the roll call motion to adjourn, the first one says Smith, yes. You
weren't present.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make that correction as well. And then, so March 8th, that needs to be a correction. And where do we leave off? I'll continue the, let's start the roll call vote over to accept the minutes as a slate with both those corrections noted. Matt, we'll just start the slate over again for the vote.
Aye.
Bruce.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Dottie.
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
Stephanie.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
And myself, yes. Okay, so that is done. Meeting minutes are approved as with changes. And let's go into an Easton outside update. There is a new campaign with Easton Outside. The latest meeting was Tuesday, and they are further using their gift from Northeastern Savings Bank to give out gift cards. I think there was a total of 7 participants. I think they're mostly restaurants, with the exception of Paperback Junction. So it's $5 gift cards, and I want to say there's like 20 per business that they're going to be giving out. If you go there, hashtag Easton Outside, take a picture and a cutout, just really spread awareness. Dottie and Stephanie, please jump in for my lack of being descript in the Easton Outside update. What did you guys get out of most recent meetings?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I think what they were going to do, so I had Northeastern has donated $1,000. They spent $300 in the first promo, and that was getting the gift cards out to people who posted their Easton Outside images. And then this next promo, as Mark just mentioned, is going to be for the different restaurants to, or different businesses to encourage people to take their picture while they're in the facility. And I have, there were 15 cards were going to be given to most of the restaurants. They talked so fast, I didn't get the full list. There were quite a few participating. I did get McGuire's in Shoveltown. I think the Farmer's Daughter was one. So several of those. And then 10 cards to Paperback Junction. And there was one other, I think it was like a personal service. I don't think it was was it one of the salons? And then they would have $250 left over if any other. So, and that included, so that those gift cards were going to be given to all the businesses that indicated a desire to participate. And it left $250 for any businesses that realized they weren't participating and wanted to join in.
And that is actually kicking off on Friday, tomorrow. That'll go on for about 2 or 3 weeks. And inside those 2 or 3 weeks, there will be development on the next campaign. So they can have, campaigns in the pipeline ready to go every time a campaign runs out. And I believe the next campaign, which is really cool, Darcy at the Y thought of, and it was having a business owner go, like, for example, Neil would leave McGuire's and he would go and pick up something at the brewery. And the video would show him going to the brewery, and then his next stop would be like to the Y, and then his next stop would be to maybe Langwater Farms, and it would be kind of a passing the torch where a business supports another business and then supports another business, and it just keeps hopscotching all around, and then having different people doing that same thing, that same idea, which I thought was really creative, fun. And it really puts an image and video to what it is that we're actually doing. And I thought it was something that would make people want to participate in doing that. So that's the next one. And then there was also incredible news, Dottie, that Dottie had shared, which Dottie, if you don't mind sharing the incredible news that you broke in that meeting.
Sure. So this is a public meeting and it's embargoed, so it's going to be announced in a couple of days. But we are about to be, so the Regional Planning Agency, Old Colony Planning Council, will be talking about a grant that they're about to receive that will benefit Easton from immediate economic impact. So that should come out in the next week or so. And it will be it's really exciting. It will be to support the campaign of the Easton Outside. I think one of the takeaways from this is the grant required 2 communities to work together on a particular project. Old Colony Planning Council put this out to all 17 communities, and 5 responded back. One of them was Easton, and the other 4 wanted to do what Easton Outside is doing. They wanted to capitalize on the success. Part of the application required a demonstration of success. So that was really a catalyst for, the work that we've done here, that 4 other communities are really going to benefit from that. And it also includes, I think, a few years ago, we talked about, wouldn't it be great if we had a business directory app that could go on your phone and, really highlight our local businesses, and not just the businesses, but things to do, museums, the Children's Museum, the Y, our trails, all this stuff. And so there was money included to get the development of that app. And the first year, the development fee and the first year subscription. Try it out, and we'll see how it goes. So that it's some really great stuff in there. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
We'll have more details on that hopefully within a few days once the governor announces it.
And it was a lot of money, and it wouldn't have happened if Dottie had not found it, discovered it, applied for it. So thank you, Dottie. That is 100% because of you. So very well done. Bringing more money in the form of grants by letting people know in town or doing it yourself. So I know you deflect credit all the time, but this one's on you. So there's great things happening with Easton Outside. Stay tuned. I'll be honest, my biggest fear is not having something in the pipeline. I don't look forward to the day when it ends. I don't want it to end. I think, going into the spring and the summer, I don't see why it can't ramp up, especially with this grant. And it's been so great for the community. It's been incredible for the community, for the business leaders. It's been great for the relationship that Easton Economic Development Council has created with the chamber. It's opened doors of communication. We're working together to support business. It's just, I don't think anybody really expected all of this to come out of it. So I hope it lasts a long time.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one of the unintended impacts, I think, was, the businesses they're burnt out. It's been a year. They're hanging on. They're trying to do everything possible. And, in these meetings, watching the businesses communicate with each other, they're fun and they're laughing and it's exciting and it's really cool stuff. And I think the camaraderie has been really, emotionally helpful to, businesses that you might think of it even as competitors, right? So they're working together and supporting. And I think it's also important to note that all the businesses in Easton were invited to participate in this. There's a handful, but it would be really a goal, I think, of mine anyway, and I'm sure of the rest of the committee, to try to get more businesses into the fold. This is really important that we're working on this because of COVID, but something else that we have to think of is that there's going to be something else that comes along down the pike. There's economic downturns, every so often. And this is a real opportunity to get a real relationship with our businesses and to help them to learn how to be more resilient and build up that resiliency for the bumps that come along the way. And, I think that there's a lot of opportunities in my day job. I have a whole list of grants that I can talk about when we get to that part of the agenda. But businesses should be reaching out to us because we have tons of resources to help them.
Yes, that's definitely something that wasn't expected, that it really brought the community together. And I think they've created relationships of support that will last long past COVID. Some people who never even knew each other are now texting each other all the time. Show me a community that does that. So I could talk about it all day, and I won't. So does anyone have any questions or comments about that? Easton Outside? Okay. Local Rapid Recovery Program grant. Stephanie, if you could take this one away.
Yeah, I think at our last meeting, I let everybody know that or Dottie let everybody know that we did receive a grant award for the local Rapid Recovery Program. This, you'll recall, is a technical assistance grant. It is valued at $60,000, but what it's providing is expert consultants to work with the communities and the targeted business districts to develop actionable project plans with the expectation that once the plans are completed and done, that there will be some funding to help fund at least some of the projects. So we were awarded that, and I think last month we submitted our application and we included all our target business districts, the Village Business District, Queeset Commercial, and Five Corners. Because of the response, they awarded over, I think it was 135 grant awards, and they awarded all the communities that applied, and they needed to pare it back. So communities that asked for support for more than one district were asked to narrow it down to a single district. And looking at, initially, I had suggested we do the Five Corners because we haven't done as many studies of that area. Although we did do a little more than a high-level study, but not an in-depth when we were working on the district improvement financing program for Five Corners. But we haven't really done a lot of project identification and action plans. The consultant looked at that district, and one of the things they really wanted was to ensure that the area they were focusing on, and this is at the state level, that there was a concentration of businesses, and they felt because of the number of residences in the Five Corners district that would make that area a little difficult, and then they wanted me to pare it back. And really, for us, the Five Corners district is the full 1 mile corridor from Depot Street to Eastman. But thinking that whatever, and knowing that the goal, as Dottie mentioned, with the regional recovery plan, recovery program, that what the state is always looking for when they fund money, in many cases, is that what you do is replicable. It's something that then can be used in another community. It may not look exactly like what you did, but it's something that can be adapted and customized for another community. And recognizing that, I felt that if we shifted to the attention and the plan for the Queeset Commercial District, we should still be able to identify projects that then we as a community could apply to the Five Corners District. So that was the direction that we're taking. The first step in that process is what they call diagnostics. There is a business survey that DHCD, working with their consultants, developed and is intended to gather information from the businesses that have been affected by the impact of COVID-19. The state's really interested in collecting data and understanding more thoroughly what the impacts were and how businesses were affected. So that information will help them at a grander scale, but it will also be key input and inform the plans that we're developing. At the same time, there was a site survey. So the business survey, the businesses need to respond to. We did an email blast out to everyone. I think I sent this to you. Actually, I will send you a copy of the flyer. I have it ready to go, but I wanted to talk about the program first. So we sent out a flyer to all the businesses for whom we have email addresses in the Queeset district. We mailed a flyer to everyone. And then on Monday, I went out and canvassed and handed out flyers to everyone, which is always, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun meeting and talking to people. And we get an opportunity sometimes to hear directly what's going on. And also people recognize when I went to hand a flyer, someone said, oh, I know we got that, and I gave it to the manager, or, the manager said, I have that already, and I could reinforce that we need them to respond. Then the consultant, who is BSC Group, we're working with Heather Gould and another Heather, whose last name I didn't get when I met with them on site. But they did a site survey. So I met them out at the district. We met down at 661 Washington Street, started there, walked around a bit. I gave them history, some background, talked about the project that's planned for 661 Washington Street. Then we drove up to the north side of the district And, they observed that area. We talked about the new development that's going on there with King's 40R project. And then, pointed out some of the highly underutilized areas like the marketplace and the land behind that. And just the fact that a lot of, I think people think that the Queeset Commercial District, there's a lot of vacancies, but really there are very few. What you do see is that it's aging. It really could use a facelift. It could be more inviting to people. The human scale, of course, for walkability, we all know is challenging because the way that roadway is designed and constructed, that, long term, we'd love to see a project there where the sidewalks are improved, there's bicycle accommodations, and maybe the traffic slows down a little bit through the district. And so we talked all about that, and all of that will help them start formulating what some of the needs are going to be in the district. From that first phase, there'll be the recommendation phase where they'll start recommending ideas and responses, and then there'll be input and feedback on that. And then the last phase will be to actually develop the plan and have it reviewed and accepted by the community.
That's a lot of information. It's all incredibly exciting. I had questions, and as I wrote them down, you would answer them. So when will they be done with this study, and when will they have that final product?
Originally, and this was before I think they received so many responses that it took them a little bit longer to announce the awards and make the decisions. Originally, this was supposed to be completed by the end of June. They moved that date to the end of August. Now, Heather told me that they want to have this completed the beginning to middle of August. Okay. And I'm guessing there are probably some vacations in there that people are trying to work around.
Now, the final product, once they're done, and I know this is a new program and they haven't completed one because this program just began, but I'm very curious as to what the final product looks like. Like it'll be a study, there'll be summaries, suggestions. Will they have drawings? Like, did they indicate at all what they will be able to actually offer us that will be actionable on our part that we can implement?
This, in introducing the program, I'm going to let Dottie jump in at the right point. So Dottie, when I start to go a little bit astray, from the very beginning, they weren't being prescriptive as to the type of projects that they would be considering or thinking that the community would identify as being needed. It was, they really focused on, we want to gather information, we want to talk to the businesses, and then from there we'll develop the projects. I do know that in talking with Heather, she'd already reviewed the Queeset Commercial District Strategic Economic Development Plan, and there were a lot of recommendations in there. I don't know that they were projects per se, but it talked about, you'll recall that that plan talked about the need for placemaking in the district, that there's no sense of arrival, there's no sense of place when you come in. And really that was the whole push when the planning board was reviewing the 661 development project in the design plans, was creating some of that, starting to create some of that buzz about the district. So I would expect that that would probably be a project that they might identify, creating a sense of place and arrival and what that would look like, and help us prepare that project to a point where we'd be able to apply for some funding to help actually act on it and take action.
Yeah, I would add, it's probably not going to be a shocker. Like, it's probably going to be like, you could improve the facades here, or you have a giant building that's vacant. Maybe you could put some art in the windows. It's what can we do to attract people to those businesses in that area? It might be you could put some planters out front. Like we're pretty advanced compared to a lot of other communities in what we have already teed up, but they're going to look at it from an outside perspective coming into our community. What would attract people to get to that area? Once they give us that plan, it's so much easier to get grants because there's going to be a lot of grants available. Then we say, look, we've got our own strategic plan for that area. Then it's supported by these other ideas. And that's, when you apply for a grant, you need to demonstrate the need. And then you have to demonstrate, if you get the money, how's it actually going to help with your business, improvements, or so that's going to really answer a lot of those questions and prepare us to be able to move to the next step to actually take action. But we don't know what they're going to come out with. Like, it could be any or all of the above. It could be, you should install some public artwork here, or it could really be anything.
And a lot of that, I think what we'll see, and I'm hoping to see, and I've seen some hints of this, and again, Dottie, you're really, you have a real ear to the ground in your position on this, and you can add to this if you think maybe the same thing. So that area could definitely benefit from a facade improvement program, but funding for those type of programs usually are available to communities like gateway communities that get CDBG money, community development block grant money, and most of that goes to highly urbanized cities. Brockton gets a lot of CDBG money that helps them with their planning and their downtowns, and they had a facade improvement program. But if I'm not mistaken, I've been hearing hints that some of that money that's usually directed to other communities and we're not eligible for might be freeing up, or there might be programs like that we can take advantage of. And I think, again, collecting that information so that the state can really see that these a lot of communities, whether you're small, you're rural, a small town, I've been out to Orange, Massachusetts. It's a cute little community, but they're economic. They were a mill town, and of course they've been struggling to recover. And having funding available for projects is like that, like a facade improvement project, or helping a district plan for and create a business improvement district, or even in Easton, we don't have any. We have the chambers of commerce, but we don't have any business persons associations. Like Brockton has 3 business. They have a downtown business. I think they might still call it Businessmen's Association, but so for each of their kind of core commercial districts. And it doesn't seem like our districts have any kind of internal coordination where the business owners themselves meet on a regular basis and kind of talk about how they can improve the area and attract more businesses.
It's interesting in hearing you guys talk about this grant and how it's, in order for there to be development in that area that is funded from another grant or by the state, you have to go through this step to get to that step. And that's, if you look at all the projects we do in town, we usually apply for a grant to get a study, to then apply for another grant to fund a portion of the project that we're about to do. So, kind of to your point, Dottie, regardless of the outcome of this study, take it or leave it, it's implementable or not, whatever it is, it's good because it's going to bring us closer to actually developing that area. The 2 biggest hurdles that I see are the two biggest pieces of land that have not yet been developed. Korea's Plaza, I know there's plans for that to be developed. I'm looking forward to something coming out of that. And Marketplace, that's huge. From what I understand, the owner just doesn't really have a motivation to do anything with it, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, that will change one day soon as that area begins to be developed. And also, Stephanie, you were talking about the Businessmen's Association in Brockton. I think the reason why there are business associations in Brockton is because there are very dense areas of business, and we don't have that. They're spread out, so there's not that camaraderie that businesses say, "Hey, we have to build up this whole area." I think those businesses, Queesit, for example, they do feel a relative disconnect with one another because they're far away. To your point, when you're going through there, you don't even know you're there until you're halfway through it because it's kind of drab. You don't know you entered into it. And there's some rundown buildings and it needs a facelift. So I think over time, we might see something a little bit closer to what you're pointing to as far as an association, but I think we're very far away from that. But that is the ultimate goal, I think, to create something like that. Anybody have any questions or comments? Tim? Go ahead.
All right. I was going through the presentation that Stephanie just made. I feel like I'm getting a little deja vu. When we did the Korea's Plaza discussion, I thought a lot of these things were drawn out as far as potentially taking away a lane of traffic, adding benches. That material, can we pass that over to this state agency and maybe get it to them already? And then with the King.
I mean, that was one of the things I said, Tim, was that they had already reviewed the Queesit Commercial District Economic Development Strategic Plan. And, to kind of where Dottie was going in, and she said some of it looked like some of their recommendations of the projects would build from that. That's what Heather Gould had said. So yes, we did share that.
Great. So they'll be starting further along than from scratch. That's good. And the Doug King project, any ETA when this intersection's ever gonna be done?
The
maybe
intersection improvement, that likely will not happen until the last phase of the project.
Okay. Because it'd be kind of nice if we're working with the the highway department and the different agencies, if perhaps while they're putting the shovels in the ground, it can all be done at one time as opposed to.
Right. Well, and that section of roadway is one of the biggest challenges for us because it is state owned, where you see the other roadway improvements happening, like along Depot Street, although the intersection improvements on 138 have been in conjunction with the state, but the state owns that roadway. So one of the things we need to do, we'd had, back when Brad Washburn was the planning director, we had a meeting with District 5, Mass DOT, to talk about long-term improvements for that roadway. There was not a lot of interest on their part, but that's something that we need to really start talking about and raising up as a desired change.
Because they're the ones who would have to do the sidewalks on 138 and everything would have to go through them, correct?
Part of the other challenge with that, Tim, is that money, a lot of that state money, it goes to the region, and the region is 17 communities, and Easton gets a huge, more, maybe some would say more than their fair share of that money.
I would never say that.
I would never say that either. But, they have to look closely at that to make sure that the money is spread out, because the Washington Street and Elm Street intersection got moved out a couple of years because, of some of that balancing of funding, which, I live on Elm Street, so I was disappointed in that because, I drive that every day too. So, all these state projects, we try to get them in the queue, but they take a long time. And then the town has to contribute in some ways too. So it's a challenge.
Any other questions or comments for Stephanie on this grant and that project and that corridor? Or anything that you want to offer as something to look for or consider as this study is occurring? Okay.
I'm going to, just before we end, I am going to ask, I've put together a list of stakeholders. I probably should have had it. Oh, so we were talking at the Easton Outside meeting. I mean, I definitely am going to have them get in touch with Ed Walsh and Doug King. It was suggested that Ed Plume from Makeovers, Collision Doctors, Elliott Physical Therapy, Keith McLaughlin, because they own the D'Angelo's Plaza, which is another big one, and Janet Lynn from Hammer and Stain. I think someone from, I'd like someone from the council, have them talk with.
I would really like to, I don't know who the owner of the marketplace is, and I know he's kind of hard. Can he be contacted on that? I know he might not respond back, but it might push him in a direction or make him think that, hey, we're developing this area. Can you please do something with this?
Yeah. I definitely, and I was talking with the Heathers about that the other day and mentioning the challenges there. And yes, I have his information, and we will try.
Because they don't, nothing happens there. And
right.
That's such a huge piece of land. It's a massive building, and there's so much opportunity there that it drives me nuts. So yeah, just a little nudge to say, hey, we are seriously developing this area. So that'd be great.
He should be, getting a pretty significant bill for the sewer. So that should be some incentive for him to think about developing that, selling it or something.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all great. That's really exciting. I look forward to seeing the study, to the outcome of the study. And, unfortunately, these things take time. I know one of the hardest things that I face in being part of the town in this capacity is I get very impatient about things not happening as fast as I want them to happen. But that's just, how it works, I guess. So we just keep plugging away, and in a couple of years, maybe we're going to see an entirely different corridor. So.
Yeah. And Mark, one of the things I've learned over the years that I've been doing this and then just other work that, my husband and I have been involved in community activism and development is that work constantly stepping forward and working towards a long-term goal does at times feel very, very, very slow. And like you're operating at glacial time. Well, I'm sorry, geological time. And yet it's always building. And then you get to that tipping point, and you have projects like the Five Corners and the sewer construction project. Yes.
Right in front of me.
Yeah. So as long as we're always talking about it and actually taking some kind of steps, then you're prepared for when that opportunity really comes to push it over the top.
And Easton is stellar at that. So, all right, let's move on to the EDC website update. I haven't had the bandwidth to think about this much. So, Matt, can you share with us whatever you have going on?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. The website's been updated. We've pushed out the changes, and by we I mean I pushed out the changes a couple months ago. So the structure that we all agreed on, and the content, thank you so much again for all the edits and suggestions from everybody who contributed. I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people, which was great. So, when you visit Easton Outside, you'll see the changes are not drastic, but it has been updated based on the plan that we've kind of been working over the last couple months.
Have a few outside website. I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. Think Easton. Yes, I'm sorry, but I think I did add some copy to I think I did add that copy to Easton Outside a few months ago, which is something else we were talking about, which we haven't touched on.
No, we haven't.
I have a few action items for myself to be able to take care of for Think Easton when I have the time. That includes including some of those census numbers that Dottie and Stephanie found for me. Just having a kind of reference table under the Easton by the numbers section. I think we could build out the Priority Development District homepage a little bit more. It's a pretty sparse little paragraph right now, and identifying some images for Five Corners, which is potentially kind of tough. I was also thinking we could add a sort of top-level link on the navigation bar that just is an external link to Easton Outside, if that makes sense. I think because it seems like we really do want to keep this project going. Yeah, exactly. We want to keep it rolling, hopefully as like a permanent thing. I think that could be a great thing to put kind of at the very end of the nav bar. And that's an easy change I can make, this weekend.
And I also think that I know this grant is embargoed. I know it hasn't been announced, but I think, I'm not going to say too much, there's something that will be as part of this grant that we can highlight on the Think Easton website. So there will be another phenomenal integration that we can do that I think will be relatively easy, that will help spread what our plans are with that grant.
Right. Yeah. And so again, it's a website, so it's a living document. I think any changes we think of, the grant is a great example, but any changes or suggestions people think of, we can update as we go. It's a very straightforward process. A lot of the heavy lifting is sort of done because we've reimagined the site structure already. So, please feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to work with anybody on.
I'm going to turn that around a little bit on you, Matt, in a good way though. In as far as you are the artist and creator so far, you and Christina, of this. So when you're working on it, you're obviously doing it in your spare time, which I'm sure is limited. When you need something, tell us. When you want something, or when you're stuck with an idea or anything, at any time, between now and our next meeting, just shoot an email, say, hey guys, I'm working on this piece. I need X, Y, and Z. I don't know. We don't know where you are and what you're, doing. But we want to be able to give you information to help you along the way, because when this is yours and Christina's baby. Let's face it. I don't know how you do what you do.
Sure. No, I think there are a few things I can follow up on with the larger group. But the census numbers are a great example. That's something that we discussed in the last meeting, and then Diane's definitely followed up the meeting, and I need to kind of build out a table and get those loaded. Probably the next big thing will be the priority development area homepage, or blurb, for lack of a better word. I'm not quite sure what the best way is to kind of introduce that concept, or if there's a history perhaps of the different studies that the town has undertaken. We can list out there to kind of show the work, right, that we've done and make these areas more appealing. But that would probably be the next big thing I would seek input for. And I can follow up after the meeting via email so people have it in writing.
Thank you. Yeah, because also in our Easton Outside meeting, they asked me about an update on the website, and I was, like a deer in the headlights. My mind was going in so many different directions. I had nothing to say, only because I hadn't asked. And further, I did look at the Easton Outside, not Think Easton, the Easton Outside website.
Sure.
And, it has been created completely to the point that we asked of you. I don't see anything more you could do to that site, Easton Outside, without actual input suggesting what to do. So I'm actually, now that I fully flush that thought, I'm going to turn back to them and say, well, what more do you want in our next Easton Outside meeting? If I'm not present, Dottie or Stephanie, and that does come up again, I think the proper retort to that is, what do you want? What more do you want done? Matt and Christina are graciously waiting for the next step. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the websites, plural, for Matt? Okay. PACE program update. Where are we at?
So, you'll recall at the last meeting, I mentioned that the town treasurer had gotten in touch with me. We've been having, back up a little bit, we've been having conversations internally with the treasurer, the assessor's office, and the town accountant to make sure this would all work. Any questions they had would be answered. It seemed like those questions that they did have had been responded to. Either they had worked through the logistics themselves, or we received a response from Wendy O'Malley. Linda Hawks, who is the treasurer, asked for additional time when she learned that the Bristol County Treasurers Association was having a meeting on April 7th, which was yesterday, and they were going to be discussing the PACE program. And I think Wendy O'Malley was the presenter there. And there were other communities that are supposed to have already started. I did receive an email back shortly. It must have been pretty much right after the meeting from Linda Hawks. And she has a lot of questions. Basically, there were questions that were asked by the treasurers that she could not answer, that Wendy couldn't answer immediately. So I took a quick look at it. I think some of the questions she asked, I had answered when I went through all of the documents. And Mass Development hadn't really developed a procedure. What I did was going through all their guidance documents and the papers and how it would work. I put together kind of a step-by-step process for what the town would need to do to get to the point where they were adopting voting to adopt the program and then implementing the program. At first glance, I think a couple of the questions that Linda had were answered in that, but I haven't had time to really go through it and talk with her. But that's kind of the next step, is really figure out what the questions are. Because remember, the town needs to keep track of the information. They need to be able to build this. They need to be able to separate it out. Mass Development a couple of times, and this was noted in Linda's email to me, that the response was very similar. They have a question as to what happens if the property owner defaults. They don't pay the bill when the taxes and the bill is due, and what the process is. There's a very, and I'm not going to pretend to know what it is, but it sounds like there's a very defined legal process when you go into tax title. And that has been something that Linda and the assessor's office has really been focusing on. We thought we had an answer to that. And it sounds like another angle was raised at the meeting yesterday. And the response from Mass Development was it would be highly unlikely that someone would default. And I think we all know that as soon as you say something's highly unlikely to happen, that's when it does. So I will get on top of that over the next few days and talk with Linda.
Interestingly, I think what you just mentioned, Tim has been alluding to for
yes,
the whole time.
Yes.
Tim, did you want to make a comment? It looked like you had unmuted for a second.
No, just I agree with what they're saying. And then just to give perspective, when you do a closing with the town and you need a municipal lien certificate, which is a one-page form, the town charges $50 to draw that up, which probably takes somebody in the tax office maybe 15 minutes. So, the only thing I'm concerned with is I'm not against the program, but obviously the default process, which is a tax-taking legal matter, could get messy. And then the other factor is the Mass Development Corp is collecting fees to sort of be the middleman in this transaction. And the town, it's the way it was left last time, we're not allowed to charge anything. So there's got to be something besides the benefit of getting the clean energy. I think the town needs to be able to set aside some, it's for a municipal lien certificate, it's $50, and that's residential. Commercial, it's $150. So I just think those things have to be answered, and it looks like it's going through the process, and they've risen. Looks like they have the same questions I did. So I guess stay tuned. You said the lady was in the meeting just yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah. And one thing, I was talking with Jay Patikas. You'll recall he joined us at the presentation that Wendy made to the board, the council. And I was talking with him about another program a few weeks back, and we started talking about PACE. And he did indicate that because one of the things we've said too, and Dan brought this up, is there probably aren't a lot of businesses in Easton that can even take advantage of this because of the high entry point. You know, it has to be a minimum $250,000 investment, and that what he's seeing is that communities. He has a couple of communities that have come to them to start to adopt PACE or to become involved with the program because they have been approached by a business. And he implied that maybe that would be the way that they would continue rolling out, that they're just see if the communities are approached and then work to set up the program. But again, it seems like there are still some questions that haven't been answered. Any of us who work with processes knows that you can spend hours and hours and hours and get everyone involved, and you think you've identified all the steps that need to take place and where there might be some potential failure points, and you think you work through it, and it's not until you actually get started and roll something out that you really get an opportunity to refine it. So
suggestion, Mark, for
Sure.
we've got about, I think, 30 to 40 communities that have adopted PACE already. So if Linda could look at the Mass Development website, or we could forward it to her, maybe there's a peer-to-peer discussion that she could have with someone network.
Yeah, I would think right now, rather than trying to have Linda make that, I think that mass development, based on the feedback, and I can loop back around with Wendy O'Malley and say, okay, so I understand all these questions came up during the presentation. How is mass development going to respond to that? And that they could be working with their communities and share the concerns that were raised. So I can do that. I can certainly reach out to Wendy.
Right. Sorry, Dana.
Go ahead. My bad.
No, I was ready to move on to the next, and I don't want to cut you off at all.
No, I was just going to say there's a strong indication that at some point the cap or the floor for this program is going to be modified. So anticipating that the threshold goes from 250 to a number that may be more realistic, and hopefully it does happen, and it will be a better fit for a lot of businesses in Easton if we do move it forward. So just a comment.
Okay. All right. So that is working itself out one way or another. So we're right on time. We have about, right on track to keep this at about an hour. The last cluster of items is general outreach and support. Easton Outside support. I think that the best way to support Easton Outside is if you have the time to attend a meeting. And within that meeting, you will find out how you can support them, because those meetings are very interesting. You think there's nobody that actually chairs the meetings. There's nobody that really runs the meetings. I can't speak on behalf of the whole group. When you're present in it, you realize that you're just one voice participating in this big movement. So you'll find if you have an idea and you offer it, you might own it and you might have to run with it. So the best way to participate is the best way to support it is to participate in the meetings. And so next two items. Dottie, you're the grant person and you're the small business relief person.
Yeah, so the biggest challenge to my job is there is so much money out there and so many grant opportunities, and trying to connect the right businesses with the right grants. I'm just going to run through a few of them. And if you look on Old Colony Planning Council's Facebook page or sign up for their newsletter, these are promoted very often. One of them that's really big is called the Shuttered Venue. It's through the Small Business Association. So this is for places like museums. So the Children's Museum, is somebody that I'm thinking about that this might help. It might even be Oaks Ames Hall. So I'm trying to come through these with my head. I work with 17 communities. It's a lot, and trying to get this out. So what I'll probably do is send a list of these to you guys and forward out to places that you might recognize. So the Shuttered Venue is one. There's going to be one that's coming out soon. It's not out yet, but it's a restaurant revitalization. That's going to be coming out like in the next week or so. That's going to be big that we're going to want to get out to our restaurants. The Mass Growth Capital is the one that facilitated the state grants that went out. Easton did very well with that. A lot of our businesses got those grants, and they were anywhere from $25,000 to $75,000, and that really made a big difference. There's going to be another opportunity for businesses, small new businesses, if they're crowdsourcing. So there's a restaurant in Brockton called Cabo Vegan that's trying to open. They're doing crowdsourcing right now. This grant will match up to $20,000 of crowdsourcing. So if you know of any businesses that are doing that, there's another one that just came out yesterday for small women-owned businesses that I haven't even really looked at yet, but there's something there. The Paycheck Protection Program, that got extended to May 31st. So there's information about that I can put on this list also. They're going to have a webinar for Spanish-speaking language people interested in that. There's also something I just sent to you, John, to share with your network for manufacturing. FEMA has a new $4 million available for smart manufacturing projects. It's just like hitting all the different industries, and again, it's trying to match them up. So I'll try to keep everybody updated on those, and feel free to share and let me know if anything comes up. There's been numerous ones for educational facilities. If you know of anyone. One of the other things so I told Mark this story. When I took my dog to the dog groomer last month, she literally was crying because she got some money from the Paycheck Protection Program, and the federal government was making that tax-free, but the state wasn't, and she got a tax bill for like $1,600 for that. And she is basically, she's closing her business because she just can't keep up with everything. And now on top of that, to add insult to injury, she's got a $1,600 bill she has to pay. So I told her, hang on a second, I knew something was changing with that. So the state just voted, the legislature voted, and I think the governor just recently signed off on it, that the state is also going to waive the tax liability for businesses that got money from the Paycheck Protection Program or for those small business grants. That's huge. That's really big for our small businesses. So the legislature and the governor are doing a really good job at trying to keep the money flowing for that. With the new federal, American Relief Program, there's going to be more businesses, more money coming through for small businesses. So when those come out, I'll keep my eyes open on it and alert the team right away for it. And then we can share it on social media. We really, Stephanie's been doing a really good job at, pushing this information out to our businesses, but we still have a lot of businesses that we don't have their email address. So that might be a good job for an intern or something this summer to try to beef that up, because we get lots of great things to help businesses, but not always easy to connect them.
I have a question, Dottie. You rattle off all of these grants, and I know you work extremely hard in scouring all the different locations where they are. Is there a central location where these grants are? Like, could you go to a website and it's the current grants and it's just listed?
No. That's the challenge. My organization is redoing our website right now, and it was supposed to be launched April 1st, but it looks like it's probably going to be May 1st. That is one of the things I'm developing on that website. So all these things will be on there. So you know, like if you go to the Metro South Chamber, they have a lot of these, but not all of them. Like nobody has all of them because they come at you in like all these different directions. If I'm being honest, I could literally sit at my desk all day and just check all the emails that I get with all these grants. So, you know, I look and I think, what are the most relevant ones? Where's the most bang for your buck? But there's way more than even these. So, you know, I look at the easy ones,
Right.
you know, because some of them are kind of obscure. But if it's something that's not going to cause a lot of work, that's what we hear overwhelmingly from our businesses is, you know, because again, they have to apply for the grants. We can help them with that, but then they have to also report on the grants. So it's work, you know, work to get and receive the grants too. So we need to also coach our small businesses through what that means. And then there's also another whole realm of business assistance. So there's a group called Small Business Strong. They have a whole collection of volunteer business associates. So if you're starting a small business or if you already have a small business, if you need help with a business plan or you need help on your website or how to file your taxes, you can reach out to them and they'll connect you with someone for free to help you with that. And we advertise that a lot. Or SCORE in Brockton or Southeastern Economic Development Seed has money and capital funding. So basically what we need is for people to know that we can help them and have them come to us, and then we can figure out what they need and match them to the right sources.
Well, I know that a number of businesses in town have benefited incredibly from grants because you have brought it to their attention. So I look at that and I say, how many tens of thousands of dollars have businesses benefited in the town of Easton because you brought it to them? So, you know, on behalf of all those businesses, thank you. They wouldn't have that if it were not for you. You know, fighting for them, introducing them to it, letting them know that these are available. And there are a lot of businesses in town that have benefited directly from you. So, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I believe that's it. So it's a little past 12. Let's get to really quickly items for June agenda, ideas. We have your typical.
I think it should be, it says June, but aren't we going, it would be for May.
It would be for May.
Yeah.
So May,
That's
obviously
on the agenda.
outside.
I don't want to skip any more months.
So we got Easton outside. I would say, you know, another standing thing should just be grants. Grants are so big in this town that we should be talking about them all the time. They bring in so much money. We have like Dottie, who can just talk for hours about it. So that should always be on the agenda. What else you guys think?
Well, I have not, I'm going to be very, very honest. I just haven't had a minute to kind of go back to last month's meeting and really reabsorb the photonics presentation. Was there follow-up from that? I seem to feel like
I sent an email to them, but we should definitely put it on our agenda so we can talk about it internally with what we thought of it and what are we going to do with it, because
yeah,
you're absolutely right, Stephanie. Thank you for saying that. That needs to be discussed. It was so incredible. We have to dedicate time to it.
I feel like the PACE program should be ready. Like it definitely should. There should be answers enough next month for this council to push it forward. You know, and you know, Stephanie, you know Jay and the mass development people. Dan knows them. I know them. If other questions come up and you don't have like the capacity to follow up with that, reach out and Dan will do it.
We gotta get this off the agenda soon. So PACE.
yes, no, I'll definitely, I again, I need to loop back around with Linda. I do think
I know it was just yesterday.
A quick glance, some of the things I'm like,
Yeah.
I immediately went, whoa, I spent all that time putting that
Right.
step by step together. That was identified, but I want to make sure, and then I can follow up with Wendy and get her take on the meeting as well. You know, there's always one real truth, but there's always different truths to a story because everyone has their own perspective on what their intent was in action and interaction.
I think it's also natural instinct when you have a room of people whose job it is, that they're going to try to poke, play devil's advocate for every
Yes.
possible scenario, as they should.
Yes.
But at a certain point, we want to find a way to say yes to this. And
Yes.
that doesn't mean overlooking risk, but it means prioritizing it and putting it together. So it sounds like we're at the end, and we're close to having everything we need.
I think analysis paralysis is what you're referring to.
Right.
Okay, so Stonehill, Pace, Grants, Easton outside. Those are 4 items. If anything gets added to it, Stephanie and I will talk about it between now and our next meeting in May. I think that's good. So let's move to it's not on the agenda, but the last thing to do. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
I'll give it to Tim. So Dottie, motion, Tim, second, and I'll go around the room. John.
Yes.
Bruce.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Dottie.
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Yes to me. I will see you guys soon. Be
Bye-bye.
well.
Thanks all.
Thank you.